Screens show a giant clam, an ancient tree, and cracks in the ground, indicating anomalies and mutations caused by nuclear waste and earth pulsations. Amid the bright lights, reports emerge of giant vines falling from the sky and subway stations being destroyed, with casualties. The crowd discusses school beauty choose breakup rumors, with one comparing the news to last year's zombie panic. Fang and Chu stand in front of the crowd, preparing to talk or confront each other while others watch them. Fang heard someone call his name and answered with a question, looking at the woman with red hair. She said they didn't seem very realistic, standing against a backdrop of a group of people and the wind blowing through her hair and clothes. Fang and Chu stand facing each other. She gestures to him to talk, while a group of people watch them from afar. Chu calls out relationship, says it's impossible to get her back, despite efforts. Fang is silent, looking at the sky in empty speech. Chu stands confidently, beaming as the crowd behind her watches in admiration. Fang, surrounded by a group of people, said everything was fine, gesturing with his hand against the sky. Chu noticed something unexpected, and the people around her looked in the same direction in surprise. Chu called out to Fang, who was obliviously scratching his ear against the crowd. She speaks tensely, showing determination and anxiety in her voice. Fang looks away thoughtfully, lost in his thoughts. She looks forward silently, a drop of sweat and slight embarrassment visible on her face. Fang and Chu watch the crowd as one woman leaves and a man marvels at her forthrightness. Fang stands with his back to a group of people under a dark sky with bright lights, creating a tense atmosphere. Fang stands in front and Chu is behind him, and he reflects that she is a stranger to him from another life. She comes down the roof saying that she has more important things to do now. Fang walks down the street thinking that the reputation and the school beauties will soon change. The image shows the planet Earth with the inscription about the real crisis for all humanity of the blue star. In the darkness, a bright light bursts out, surrounded by fragments, creating the effect of an explosion or destruction. Fang watches as a red moon with crows and a stormy sea with a container ship are reflected in a broken mirror. Against the backdrop of a stormy sky and a city, a man looks in fear at a giant multi-eyed creature, and the inscription warns of an impending revival of spiritual energy. He looks at a glowing silhouette with many figures surrounded by fragments and hears that the standards of society will be rewritten and power will become the only criterion. He, surrounded by light, asks the bright glowing object who he is. Fang looks at the system that appears in front of him in surprise, explaining that it generates cultivation techniques based on spiritual materials. Fang activates a magical screen from which energy emanates, and below appears an evil creature with an open mouth. Fang pulls away abruptly, beads of sweat flying, and the tension in the air is palpable. Fang parries an attack from a huge glowing beast-like head surrounded by electrical discharges. Fang is inside a huge mouth with sharp teeth, surrounded by dark spots and red light. Fang stands surrounded by terrifying images and realizes that his destiny is to be an ordinary person, and with him, billions on Blue Star will perish. Fang remembers his past life and places his hand on his chest with worry. Fang reflects on how ordinary people struggle to survive and try to survive a disaster, while in the background, a man sits alone in the rain. Fang says with a heavy expression that he saw the fall of his nation and the suffering of the people against the backdrop of thunder and lightning. He falls to the ground under a giant mutated beast-like shadow during a thunderstorm in a ruined city. Fang lies on the ground, covered in blood and wounds, filled with rage and a desire for revenge. Fang reflects on being chosen by the system and being sent back a year before his aura was restored. Fang says most people are currently unaware of the changes that are coming, emphasizing his outstretched hand. Fang firmly states that he will use every anomaly caused by the aura to his advantage, with his hand emitting a bright light. Fang rises towards a bright light, illuminating the space around him with powerful rays. Fang watches with shining eyes as golden lines flash around him, accompanied by a message of successful binding and opening of a new path. Words appear against the sky saying that everything in the world can be used for the system, and a call to gather powerful techniques and abilities to become a strong cultivator and save the world. A crowd of people on the street watches screens with news about an unprecedented crisis threatening humanity. 3 men stand on the street. One of them says that the government does not confirm anything. Fang explains that the messages are a subtle way of warning from the Xia nation, and the previously thought to be myths, reports have now gone viral. Fang looks on with a serious expression as people shoot and set fire to the building, causing chaos and explosions. Fang asks if this means he should go where the anomalies are happening while the other men stand by. Fang shows news on phone about record UV levels and heat warning. Fang walks down the sidewalk as three young men, two of whom are wearing basketball uniforms, stand nearby and chat. Fang looks at the tall building and wonders how it is possible. Fang stands on the steps with his phone in his hand and smiles, white smoke or fog swirling around him. The north entrance of Qingcheng University is shown against a sunset sky with a few people under umbrellas, and at the bottom it says that this is the least crowded entrance. Fang is breathing heavily and sweating, clearly experiencing a lot of stress or pain. Fang stands surrounded by smoke and says that something is definitely wrong here. Fang notices two people running, screaming that they will be burned to the ground, and asks what that means. Fang reaches out to something on the ground against the backdrop of an orange sunset with sparks. Fang points his finger at a bright glowing ball, creating a sense of magical or energetic power. Fang reacts with surprise and alarm to a sudden event, expressing this with an exclamation and a question. Fang is surrounded by bright energy, and the system reports the unlocking of the Yang attribute data template due to intense vibrations. Fang screams in pain as golden electrical currents begin to spark and flow around him. On an empty street, a bright explosion suddenly occurs, illuminating everything around with yellow rays. The crowd is shocked by the bright light. One of them asks in surprise if he is hallucinating and mentions Super Saya X. He is in great pain, engulfed in bright flames and groaning, ugh. He is surrounded by bright light and feels like he is dying, trying to figure out if the compilation is finished. Fang obtains the golden breath of the sun technique and completes the Yang attribute compilation, surrounded by a bright golden light. Against the backdrop of the university, under the bright sun, several people walk past posters welcoming new students. Several students are standing in line to check in. One of them offers to help with their luggage. Chu is walking with a suitcase, and several guys ask her which dorm building she's heading to, offering to walk her there. Chu stands in front of a crowd of people and says something important, getting their attention. Fang happily says that they meet every day, while Chu stands next to him with an indifferent expression. Chu watches with a serious expression as a bright explosion erupts in front of a building, while people around him react in panic to what is happening. A group of people, including Chu, stand under the columns as loud sounds are heard from the speakers, and she remains silent in response to what is happening. She appears tense and focused, looking away as if preparing for an important conversation or action. A powerful explosion occurs at the north gate of Qingcheng University, with a fiery vortex and a human figure visible in the center. In the clouds of smoke and dust, the silhouette of a huge creature with wings appears, creating an atmosphere of tension and threat. The image shows a message about unlocking the Golden Sun breathing technique for body improvement without the participation of characters. Fang tensed his arms, emitting light and surrounded by smoke, as if preparing for a powerful attack. Fang asks in surprise what compilation points are while holding a glowing tablet. Night, the full moon illuminates the building and trees, creating a mysterious atmosphere with no visible characters. Fang said something serious against the backdrop of the bright sky and sun. The image shows a building in bright sunlight and trees with autumn leaves, with no characters. Fang asked if the sky seemed to darken for a moment, to which he noted that it did indeed feel cool. University President Ching Chung stands in front of a group of security guards and orders them to register immediately, threatening to revoke their credit if they fail to comply. Fang and Chu walk down the street, surrounded by a crowd and smoke, creating a tense atmosphere around them. Four men in suits and hoods look down. One of them says something important. Fang, surrounded by smoke, is surprised that the contaminated area is marked on the map by the Xia nation and ponders that he may not be the only one who noticed it. Chu asked if the people standing there were military men in uniform and wondered what was going on while watching the group of people and the soldiers. Fang stands surrounded by clouds of smoke on a destroyed street, watching the events around him. Fang quickly jumps down, deciding it's time to leave. Fang stands surrounded by clouds of smoke against a bright sky, his figure shrouded in a cloak and looking mysterious. The hooded character looks down and holds up two fingers, as if explaining something important. The crowd hears a call to evacuate, and he asks them to wait and first post on social media. Chu turned around abruptly, attracting the attention of two men who were visibly surprised by her behavior. Chu looks at Fang walking away into the smoke with concern and thinks about the figure he just saw. She says something quietly, smiling half-turned against the bluish-dark background. A residential building with trees in the foreground is shown against the backdrop of the setting sun. Fang lies on the bed, illuminated by the sun's rays. The sound of water drops can be heard in the room. Fang looks worriedly to the side where two boys are taking a shower under the streams of water and steam. Fang, sitting on the bed, wipes away his sweat and wonders if anyone could have noticed today's commotion. Fang looks at the phone with the news about the Aura Cultivation Association's cultivation level update. Fang thoughtfully holds the phone and thinks about the need to release cultivation manuals. Fang notices the cloaked figure moving away and silently asks to wait. Fang notes that despite the fantasy, the formatting and watermark look familiar. Fang stares at his phone, realizing he's lost everything he had. He sits on his bed in a meditation pose and decides to try the golden sun breathing technique again. Fang stands with his eyes closed against the backdrop of fiery light, as if concentrating or preparing for something important. Fang stands intently surrounded by flames, feeling the tension and inner struggle. He floats in the room, surrounded by flames, meditating intently in the lotus position. Fang meditates intently, surrounded by a bright aura that he says contains heavenly and earthly energy. Fang is surrounded by a bright vortex of fire, his face glowing with powerful energy, preparing to attack. Fang meditates surrounded by bright energy and thinks about what it could be when a message appears about reaching Dushui Realm, level, and 50 compilation points. Fang is surprised to read a holographic message about earning points and needing payment to unlock the next stage. Fang looks thoughtfully at the transparent screen and asks if it counts as any object. Fang stretches his hand forward in concentration, emitting a bright glow. A question appears on the screen about absorbing and embedding the yang attribute into an object that glows on a plate of fruit. Fang muses out loud that if he chooses yes, the cup will gain a yang attribute, and any weapon will become his signature weapon, and the system will not limit him to one attribute. Fang is lying on a bed with a glowing sword pointed at him, creating a tense atmosphere. Fang stands outside at night in front of a lit building, his arms raised tensely as if preparing for action. A sinister beast with red eyes and sharp teeth appears in the forest, making frightening sounds. Fang wakes up in the room and quietly groans in discomfort, feeling unwell. Fang explains that after crossing over into the world of the ghost acts, his hearing has become superhuman and he can hear sounds from his neighbors. Fang lies in a dark room and listens to the sounds around him, expressing surprise. Fang opens the door and notices the sudden appearance of a large dark silhouette in the hallway. Fang looks up at a huge black bird with glowing red eyes that makes sharp sounds. In a city at night, a helicopter illuminates the streets with a spotlight, and a fluttering blue hair can be seen in the frame. She stands on a tall structure with a full moon in the background and says that they still haven't caught the rabbit that ate the night spirit fruit because its speed is too crazy. She thoughtfully sucks on a lollipop without saying a word. The character falls rapidly from a height between buildings in a night city, creating the feeling of rapid downward movement. He turned his head sharply, noticing something unexpected that caused him great surprise. Fang stares ahead tensely, his eyes reflecting his inner struggle and anxiety. Fang charges forward, crashing into Chu against the backdrop of the city at night and creating a massive explosion. Fang reports the appearance of a night aura and orders pursuit of a target that has entered a densely populated area 20 kilometers away. Fang stepped on the floor with a loud thud. She parries the attack, warning that the creature has recently absorbed a spirit fruit and its mutation is not yet complete. A man with a cup in his hand noticed something unexpected as he looked up at the reflection of buildings in the glass. Man in office wonders if overwork is causing him to hallucinate. Fang encounters a huge monster with red eyes and sharp claws that suddenly attacks him. Fang looks at him with concentration, his eye glowing brightly, expressing determination and tension. Fang, surrounded by a glowing halo, reflects a powerful blow from the dark creature, causing an explosion on the ground. Fang reflects on how his body has changed since the breakthrough and now sees movement in slow motion. Fang concentrates on squeezing a glowing energy ball in his hand, emitting a bright yellow glow and sparks. Fang concentrates as he releases glowing energy from his hands, recalling events from his past life against the backdrop of dark figures. Fang tries to stop the monster, explaining that its night attribute increases its strength and fury and warns that otherwise everyone in the building will become its prey. Fang grabbed Chu's hand sharply, showing persistence and tension in his movement. Fang attacks with force a creature with red eyes that makes biting sounds. Fang prepares for a powerful strike with concentration, surrounded by a glowing energy field. Fang attacks the creature, stating that its weakness is its tail. Fang breaks through the glass to attack the red-eyed creature that jumps on him. Fang concentrates on delivering a powerful punch, surrounded by a bright yellow light and energy. Fang delivers a powerful blow to the red-eyed monster, piercing it with a bright beam of energy. The dark creature receives a powerful energy blow, accompanied by a loud sound. The red-eyed monster releases a glowing ball of energy from its paws, preparing to attack. Fang reflects a bright blast of light from a huge red-eyed monster preparing to attack. Fang notices that someone is trying to absorb his yang power and muses that the sun's power is so strong that this rabbit is digging his own grave. The scene shows a bright explosion with motion effects and sound, with no visible characters. Fang, looking out the window, asked if it was thunder. He lands on the ground among the glowing particles and says there is nothing there. He stands in the forest, surrounded by a glowing yellow light, with glowing fragments scattered on the ground around him. Fang looks forward with a serious expression against the dark sky. Fang stomped on the ground, causing a strong impact and cracks around his leg. Fang looks up with a serious expression and says something important, surrounded by mystical light and falling leaves. Fang reflects on the beginning of the beast's mutation and how if it were a normal human, it would be dangerous. Fang muses that everyone here would have fallen victim to the monster by now, and admits that he needs to master more techniques to combat such threats. She jumps in the night forest against the backdrop of a full moon, surrounded by sharp rocks and falling leaves. Fang quickly climbs a slope in the night forest, leaving behind traces of strong steps. Against the backdrop of a night forest stands a girl with long ponytails who says something, looking down. Fang suddenly touched the ground, causing a glow and crackling sound, which caught his attention. She feels the heat from her hand and thinks to herself that she is very hot. Fang looks forward with a serious expression, and behind him appears a figure with glowing eyes and a mask. She is standing in the forest and talking on the phone, while an ominous shadow with horns is visible on the ground. He asks if the cleansing of the polluted area and the mutated rabbit was really done by one person with an aura of 1-star level and a pure yang attribute. Fang types quickly on a keyboard in front of multiple screens of photos, concentrating on an assignment. She agrees, holding flames and blue tongues of fire in her hands, surrounded by glowing rings of fire. She thoughtfully sucks on a lollipop and says that first she needs a glass of milk tea. Fang confirms that the president was right, and someone with that kind of power is definitely a master, as he stands surrounded by flames. Fang opens the curtains and says that blinding sunlight is shining on him. Fang takes off his shirt, saying it is more conducive to his cultivation. Fang concentrates, reciting the golden sun breathing technique, and bright golden streams of energy swirl around him. Fang senses the aura of the golden sun breathing technique manifesting in the Phantom Axe realm and is surprised by its rapid activation. He strikes with force, surrounded by bright energy and the sound of impact. He waves the glowing staff with concentration, thinking that cultivation is like chopping wood and that all that matters is persistence. Fang grips the glowing sword with both hands and delivers a powerful downward strike, emitting bright energy. He concentrates and releases a powerful golden beam of energy downwards, and a message appears, stating that he has reached the 2nd level in the Ghost Axe world. Fang feels his body become even stronger, and a bright glow begins to emanate around him. Fang meditates intently, surrounded by bright yellow energy currents, explaining that his rapid progress is due to the fact that he has not yet used his full power. He is surrounded by flames and says that he must now gradually increase his level step by step. Fang looks at the package and reports that the genuine items have just arrived. He sits in a chair at the table and responds to someone's sound or question, expressing surprise or attention. Man holding glass and phone, looking ahead thoughtfully in dim light. Fang sits on a rock by the river and interacts with a holographic screen next to a sword. Fang agrees to use the code glasses to implant Yang's attribute into an object surrounded by a bright yellow light. Fang watches with a serious expression as another man with fire in his hand warns that he can't handle Yang's power. Fang fights by spinning his sword with powerful energy and notices that not all objects are suitable as weapons. Fang is surrounded by glowing blades with energy and says that it is a good weapon and he wants to test its power. Fang releases a powerful beam of light, creating a blinding explosion of energy in the air. Fang swings his flaming sword furiously, releasing a powerful fire strike forward. Fang fights off a powerful attack, noticing that he almost caused a fire. Fang stands with his sword against the backdrop of smoke and destruction, thinking that the noise and smoke might have attracted attention by now. She runs down the road, cursing under her breath about something, holding a bottle in her hand. She jumps back from the hot lava, commenting that it is bad luck due to retrograde motion. She exclaims in surprise, asking if it is spring. He asks in surprise what the Buddha statue did and regrets how to restore it now after the incident. Fang thinks that she will be scolded again by the cleaning department because of this person's appearance, and she cries and worries about what is happening. She looks in surprise at the flashes of light that appear on the mountainside. She is shocked and scared when something strange starts to appear on her face. 3 figures with burning and glowing weapons demonstrate the power of spiritual weapons, which give ordinary objects extraordinary power. She touches her lips thoughtfully, looking ahead with concentration. He sits on a rock by the water and laughs, admitting that he was wrong and was just joking. Fang walks along a forest path with a sword in his hand, surrounded by shadows and light through the trees. Fang reflects on how the system allows him to code many different techniques, using everything in the world as coding material. Fang is surprised to read a message asking if he is a pioneer and telling him about a group of pioneer friends looking for new members. Fang, looking at the phone, thought about the new pollution zone. The image shows 2 caves, one with icy water and one with lava, accompanied by text explanations with no visible characters. Against the backdrop of mountains and forest, someone asks when Old Man Lee's friend will arrive. Fang and a few others are standing by a huge crack in the rock, and one of them says that it will happen soon. A man with a backpack addresses 3 smiling strangers who are having a friendly conversation with him. A man with short blonde hair and glasses smiles nervously as he explains that he wanted to recommend someone to the Spiritual Energy Association. A group of people in suits stand in front of a skyscraper, and one of them reveals that the Energy Cultivation Association is actually a government agency. The character reflects on how he has gone through many trials that have cost his family many favors, and he cannot even find the door. 3 people are standing on the street. One turns around in surprise, another calmly looks ahead, and a girl with glasses nervously rubs her forehead. Fang stands with a sword against a backdrop of trees and sun, preparing to speak or act. She is surprised to think that despite the strong aura, something seems strange. Fang and Chu enter the brightly lit room through a narrow passage in the rock, confirming their intention with the word okay. Fang leads the group with a lantern in the cave, and the girl with green hair smiles as she follows him with 2 men behind. Fang and 3 others are walking through the cave. One of them is lighting the way with a flashlight, and he assumes that they have not yet reached the center of the pollution. Fang walks forward with a serious expression, while 3 people behind him watch him in the cave. A group of people stand in front of a lava flow in a cave. One of them announces that they have arrived, and the other admires the lava. Fang runs forward at a rapid pace, and one of those standing behind him warns of the impending danger and asks not to act rashly. Fang thrusts his sword into the ground, causing a bright explosion, and someone warns him, asking if he wishes to die. Because of the explosion, someone urgently orders to quickly pull out the victim, and 4 people retreat, covering themselves with their hands. Against the backdrop of flames, the system reports the detection of a world anomaly and the beginning of analysis with the activation of maximum computing power and the coding process. A caption appears against the background of the flames, explaining that the internal flames are highly heated, explosive, and extremely destructive. The image shows a description of the Scarlet Flame Sword technique, which is activated when the blade is drawn, causing flames and lightning to appear with each swing. The image shows a hand surrounded by flames and energy, accompanied by text about the power of the sword, which releases enormous energy when used with martial intent. Fang grips his sword tightly against the backdrop of fiery flames, preparing for the final move. Fang explains that he uses scenario points to absorb the internal fire attribute into his Tang sword. Fang floats in a fiery vortex as one of the onlookers points at him, saying he's okay. Fang stands with a flaming sword, watching as 2 men talk in the distance, one of whom holds a club. 4 men discuss a feeling of energy. One of them, with outstretched arms, says that he feels strength and potential for development. The image shows a man with glasses and blonde hair confidently saying he will monitor the situation while giving a thumbs up. A woman with short blonde hair and glasses notices silhouettes of people at the entrance to a cave and reacts to their appearance. He with the red eye and 2 companions look menacingly at the man behind him, who realizes that they're too strong to fight. She watches the three figures surrounded by glowing energies with alarm and thinks that it is better not to mess with them. Fang says that his friend is already absorbing spiritual energy, turning to the three men standing in front of him. A man with an eye patch laughs loudly, expressing confidence and strength. The man remains silent with a serious expression, thinking about the survival of the fittest through the revival of spiritual energy. Fang greets unexpectedly, and the woman with short blonde hair and glasses is surprised. Fang, with a fiery sword in his hand, looks at the muscular man, who exclaims in surprise, and then Fang raises the sword in front of him in concentration. Fang and the two men fight, delivering powerful blows that cause bright flashes of fire and energy. Fang yells, "Get back!" as he attacks two enemies, causing them to fall in a fiery explosion. A man asks in confusion what happened while another sits in meditation on a rock in a cave. Fang grips the hilt of his sword as the background shows him delivering quick and precise blows to multiple opponents. Fang is determined that these people won't be intimidated by just talking and admonishing them, while the other man looks scared. Fang suddenly appears and orders them to leave, accompanying his words with a powerful blow that causes an explosion of light and destruction. A man in shock is surprised by the second explosion, asking what kind of monster it is. Fang stands with his sword, preparing to attack three attackers descending into a deep pit. Fang plays air guitar while three guys behind him shout in delight that he's amazing. Fang smiles and scratches the back of his head, expressing mild awkwardness or embarrassment. Fang walks forward, while three others, including a woman with red hair, discuss something while standing on a rocky surface under icicles. Fang walks ahead and she watches him anxiously in the dark cave. She clenches her fist and looks determined despite the bead of sweat on her face. A woman at a computer asks if another high-ability pioneer has emerged. Chu, holding the phone, awkwardly replied that nothing was happening, and Fang stood silently behind her. Fang presses the red button on his phone, preparing to make a call. A man asks with a serious look if there can be luck, and a woman next to him smiles and rejoices. A man with a tired expression says he wants to resign, touching his temple with his hand. Fang suddenly coughed, covering his mouth with his hand, expressing great discomfort. Fang stands with his sword behind his back, thoughtfully silent, while a group of men watch him with interest. Fang looks closely at the phone screen, noticing something unexpected. Fang reads a news story on his phone about golden light and purple energy at an ancient cave, and a photographer who captured a dragon flying by. Fang looks forward with a serious expression, lost in thought. A group of people walk down the street at dawn. One with a sword on his back thinks about going to the back mountain. Su Qingying, a garden restoration expert, wipes sweat from her face and says she has finally finished the job. She looks ahead with a serious expression against the backdrop of the sunset and trees. She notices a powerful energy coming from the mountain and says that someone is there. The voiced voice wonders who is trying to break into the three-star ghostly axe world amidst the whirlwind of fiery energy. He looks at the whirlwind of fire and wonders if a breakthrough in the world of the ghost axe could cause such chaos, adding that it is something monstrous. He decides to check the situation and thinks that it might be him, but doubts it, and at the same time rushes quickly to catch up with the target. Fang watches as a glowing vortex of energy rises before him, surrounded by golden spirals and light. A man meditates surrounded by golden hands in a glowing aura, focusing intensely on his powers. The image shows a magical energy vortex with a bright glowing center with no visible characters. He is amazed at the precise and stable control of spiritual energy and wonders if this man has been training in secret for hundreds of years. Fang, with a serious expression, says that after the divine axe struck him, he lay in bed for a week, not wanting to remember the experience. She marvels at the enormous spiritual energy and skill in handling the divine axe, as if each thread of energy had been sharpened 1,000 times. The image shows a man in traditional clothing and hat sweeping leaves, and the text says he moves calmly and wisely, like an ancient hermit. He notices the divine axe moving in an easterly direction and hurries towards it. Fang is surrounded by bright energy, achieving a breakthrough and opening the level Ghost Axe Realm 2-star. He exhales with effort, surrounded by bright flashes of fire and explosions around him. She stands in front of a huge rift from which bright streams of energy burst forth, illuminating the dark space around her. She breathes heavily and speaks, clearly feeling stressed or tired. He suddenly stops and says that you need to wait a second. She looks at the big tree and asks if the Elder One has left yet. Fang, hidden in the shadows with a sword, thinks that she is the one investigating his last days. She stands among the trees and says something, looking up. Fang said all official documents are ready, although they have not yet been made public. She looks forward with a serious expression, lit from above, creating a tense atmosphere. He suddenly noticed something and expressed surprise. Fang says things are growing chaotically and out of control right now, and admits that joining an association can feel restrictive. Fang, leaning against a tree, thoughtfully holds a knife and listens to someone address him. She looks anxious and tense with a bead of sweat on her face, looking ahead. She holds up her ID and asks him to trust her, showing a document from the Spiritual Energy Association. Fang thoughtfully remembered something, saying to himself that he now vaguely remembered. Fang muses that people with natural physical abilities are better at becoming pioneers, and marvels at the speed of the girl in the photo. Fang looks forward thoughtfully, his red eyes expressing seriousness and concentration. On a ruined street among the rubble and abandoned cars, a ruined building is visible against the backdrop of the setting sun, with no characters present. He, with a long tail, holding a photograph, says that he really remembers the interlocutor. Fang quickly flies forward, saying he'll think about it. Fang warns that Su Qingying's behavior indicates the association is not currently a threat, while Chu holds the device in surprise. Fang and Chu strike simultaneously, their movements merging into a fast-paced combat dance. She speaks with a serious expression on her face, looking forward against the backdrop of a tree. She stands on a forest path near a fire, surrounded by trees and a light fog. She walks along a forest path and complains that she can't catch someone and is tired of erasing the traces of this strong man. He anxiously touches the headset and reacts to what he hears, noticing something unexpected. She stands among the evil monsters and thinks about strange, bloody creatures. Dark red shadows spread menacingly across the ruined city, and a voice says that it will never forget the evil, mad, and bloodthirsty creatures. The image shows red silhouettes of monsters against a backdrop of a destroyed city, with text clouds explaining that they feed on the energy of contaminated areas and disguise themselves as disasters. A sinister entity appears in the ruined city, which, according to the narrator, will bring terrible destruction and devour the human world if it is not destroyed. The image shows a stormy night with lightning and rain illuminating city buildings and a street under a street lamp. In the rain, someone steps into a puddle, accompanied by a sound, and on the screen there is a warning about a severe thunderstorm and the need to be careful. Against the backdrop of a strong thunderstorm over the city, thoughts are heard about how there hasn't been such a storm for a long time and about what kind of higher power is being tested by lightning. Fang stands in the rain with his hood up, his red eyes serious and thoughtful. He stands in a rainy alley and contemplates the powerful concentration of lightning energy and the center of the storm. He stands in the rain and points to a mountain illuminated by lightning, saying that this is the right place. Fang plummets from a height into a rainy night, hiding under a fluttering cloak. Fang rushes forward in the pouring rain, preparing to attack. Fang stands in the forest in the rain. A light falls on him, and a transparent screen with inscriptions appears in front of him. Set against a backdrop of a gloomy forest and a mountain with a sign describing its height and area, the scene is immersed in rain and fog, creating an atmosphere of mystery and danger. Fang walks through a dark forest in the rain, hiding his face with a hood. Fang looks thoughtfully into the rain, his gaze filled with heavy sadness. The image shows a bright flash of blue lightning against a dark background, with no visible characters. The image shows a powerful energy blast or glowing stream coming from top to bottom, with no visible characters. Man in suit with mustache, speaking while holding document against cold blue lighting. Fang and Chu sit at a table in a dark room discussing documents, while two men listen intently to their conversation. She says the emergency plan must be activated immediately, with a mountain and lightning in the background. Several men in uniform look down intently as they discuss something serious in a tense atmosphere. The man said decisively that it was necessary to eliminate the threat at the root and completely seal the mountain. The image shows a powerful blue energy blast destroying the ground, with no characters visible. Fang, surrounded by energy, says he has the Jin-Yang breathing technique. Fang is surrounded by bright energy and lightning, preparing for a powerful attack or defense. Fang explains that even simple animals can become a threat to humans, showing destruction and dangerous creatures against the backdrop of a university in lava. Fang ponders a future where more fearsome creatures will emerge and admits that his mastery of breathing and sword techniques is not yet sufficient. Fang explains that he has enhanced his sword with fire and sun for durability and attack, but realizes that relying too much on weapons is dangerous and he must become stronger himself. Fang is surrounded by a blue energy flow, raising his hand as if preparing to attack or defend. Fang resolutely jumps down, surrounded by explosions of blue energy, and thinks that he must seek opportunities among the transformations of heaven and earth. Depicted is a powerful blue energy flow, accompanied by thoughts of inevitable death under the weight of disasters. Fang with yellow eyes clutches a burning object in his hand, preparing for action. Fang unleashes a powerful fire strike, causing a bright explosion of energy. Fang clenches his teeth and sweats, his eyes burning brightly in the darkness. Fang screams in pain or rage, surrounded by bright blue flashes and flying shards of energy. Fang, overcome with energy, gasps, tightly clutching the glowing staff, trying to cope with the pain. Fang delivers a powerful sword strike accompanied by lightning and explains that this property of thunder is a fierce divine punishment. Fang feels a lot of pressure from invading the forbidden area and ponders how to make her submit to him. Fang stands with his sword, watching the bright energy in the sky, and ponders that the system warned him to touch the energy itself. Fang, with bright energy in his eyes, exclaims that he has found the Jin Wang breathing technique and begins to use it. Fang screams in pain as his arm is engulfed in flames and he tries to fight off the blue energy blast attack. Fang delivers a powerful blow, causing a bright explosion of fire and energy around him. Fang barely holds back the pain as he talks about having to reach the top while his body is engulfed in flames. Fang delivers a powerful blow, accompanied by the cry, "Face death to live," surrounded by bright blue and orange flashes of energy. The destruction of the wall is accompanied by electrical discharges and flying fragments, but the characters in the image are not visible. Fang feels a powerful stream of thunderous energy that paralyzes his muscles and thinks she wants to kill him, but he resists. Fang, with an intense gaze and glowing yellow eyes, prepares for a powerful attack, surrounded by bright blue flashes of energy. The image shows a powerful blast of blue energy, but neither Fang nor Chu are visible. Several men discuss a thunderstorm and a possible test of a deity. One of them takes a photo of lightning, and another expresses concern for the city. The image shows a character receiving purified divine thunder power, accompanied by a bright flash and sound effects. Against the background of lightning, it is said that the attribute of thunder is the highest destructive force, capable of turning the body into lightning and being formidable in attack and defense. Fang plunges into an energy vortex, and the lyrics speak of ancient practices where spiritual energy transformed bodies into invulnerable mountains. Fang is surrounded by blue and yellow energies that emanate from him, creating a powerful glow and destroying his clothes. Fang realizes that the power of thunder is not only about destruction, but also about purification and rebirth, surrounded by electrical discharges. Fang floats in the air, surrounded by blue electricity and a fiery sword, contemplating the strength and purity of the solar attribute. Fang powerfully concentrates electrical energy and states that he has figured out how to embed it into his right hand. Fang creates a powerful electrical energy around his hand with concentration, radiating confidence and strength. At the top of the mountain, Chu reports that the energy concentration at the peak has decreased to light pollution in 3 hours, turning to Captain Han. A man with a green aura on his hand stands on a slope in the rain while a woman watches him from behind. Chu runs towards Fang, who is standing with his back turned, noticing something unexpected. He knelt down in the rain, touching the ground with concentration, making a soft sound. Fang explained that the strange phenomenon began around 6 in the evening, and they cordoned off the foot of the mountain by 7 while Chu listened. Fang raises his hand to his face in the rain, his gaze focused and intense. Fang explains that the pollution level should have reached 5 degrees by dawn, but after 8 in the evening, the energy density dropped, and he suggests that the man has the power of thunder, having withstood the lightning strike. He ponders in the rain that the change in the phenomenon is the only explanation, otherwise it would be an incredible coincidence. Fang explains that the most dangerous people are those whose side is hard to determine while she is listening carefully. Fang falls backwards as 2 men in top hats watch from afar. The figure is surrounded by blue lightning, and the words, "the tyrant," appear in the cloud. Against the backdrop of mountains and a gloomy forest, there is hope for Tyrant's imminent accession to the Union and their side. Fang and Chu stand facing a group of people in raincoats in the rain, discussing an important matter. The image shows a girl with long blonde hair in 2 ponytails, looking surprised and tense. She looks in surprise at the tall man in a raincoat and hat who stands calmly opposite her in the rain. She explains that his movements are too mysterious until a silhouette surrounded by flames appears behind her. Fang touches his chin thoughtfully in the rain, lost in thought. She salutes, showing respect, and he holds his hat and looks down, demonstrating seriousness and concentration. Set against a nighttime building with lit windows, the scene shows no characters or dialogue. Fang casts the golden sun breathing technique, activating his fire breath as his hand touches the glowing body. Fang takes off his jacket and says his shift is over. Fang concentrates on releasing electrical energy from his hand, creating sparks and lightning around his fingers. Fang uses lightning magic, marveling at the power of the thunder element that hit him. Fang explains that his body has weakened the power of thunder, and the system reports that thunder deals 300% critical damage to evil, abnormal creatures. Fang noticed something unexpected. His hand glowed with energy, and he noticed the phone ringing on the table. Fang reflects that warnings always contain opportunities that, for him as a challenger, are an irresistible temptation. Fang says resolutely that he must try even if it costs him his life and ruins his path, and someone reacts in surprise. As chemical plant explosion leaves pollution, investigation into cause of incident and suspicions over its scale. Fang and Chu discuss the strange feeling and eerie atmosphere around the chemical plant after the explosion, wondering if it is related to something supernatural. Fang touches his lips thoughtfully, expressing doubt and tension in response to the situation. Fang was startled to notice something behind him, where an ominous figure could be seen in the darkness. Fang hides behind rocks, covering his mouth, as a sinister monster with red eyes attacks another man. The image shows a creature with red eyes making a growling grrr sound, expressing aggression or threat. In a dark corridor, Fang explains that after transformation, plants and animals gain intelligence and terrifying power to hunt and kill. Fang says that he needs to act tonight to stop the evolution of the rabbit beast before it continues, and his hand is surrounded by sparkling energy. Fang says it's time to test the power of a critical hit in a real fight, and blue energy starts to sparkle around him. The sky above the city is illuminated by bright flashes, accompanied by loud sounds, creating an atmosphere of tension and danger. At an empty intersection in the rain, the traffic light is red. The cars are not moving. Against the background of a green traffic light, a message from headquarters is heard that the destruction team has lost track of the anomaly Night by Candlelight from file number 7. He lands swiftly, surrounded by shadows, and explains that it is known for its ability to blend into the darkness and hide. On a rainy night, 3 people in raincoats are hurrying through the city, and a voice warns that in such weather the feeding will begin. Fang stands in the rain with his hood up and says something with determination in his voice. He reports that additional information on case number 7, Candlelight Night, has been uploaded. In a red-lit room, employees are working at monitors, and one man stands with a document announcing the launch of a Priority B extermination campaign with a 12-hour deadline. Fang and Chu descend from the roof of a building into a thunderstorm, surrounded by lightning and dark clouds. Fang, jumping from the roof in the rain, confirms that he understood the task. Fang studies the city map with highlighted targets intently, thinking about the headquarters proposals. The group of cloaked men move quickly, one of them expressing his gratitude and hope for Su Qingying's quick arrival with her achievements. Fang and another hooded man look ahead warily in the rain, reacting to something sudden. Fang stands on a raised platform in the rain with 2 hooded figures behind him, displaying confidence and authority. The figure on the roof says that the situation with the Candlelight Night anomaly is not just a rework, and one of the hooded ones asks if this is how they ask for help. Chu reports that Team Ying is retreating, while another member expresses concern that the leader is too cruel and may allow them to be eaten. Fang explains to the hooded group how dangerous Candlelight Night is without the ability to track it. A group of people in raincoats stand on a roof in the rain, looking at the night city and the mountain in the distance. Fang creates a glowing blue energy ball in his hand against a rainy city backdrop. A vortex of energy swirls in the center of the city, creating a powerful glowing field. In a dark and damp place, a sinister creature called Zhu Yi appears, known for its habit of feeding on humans. Fang confirms the start of the sabotage operation, while Chu prepares magic in his hand in the rain. On a rainy night, a creature with red eyes appears from the darkness, watching a fountain whose spray rises into the air. Fang jumps with force, destroying the surface, and reports that the target has detected them, ordering the sabotage team to take up combat position immediately. Fang sharply dodges an attack from a giant red-eyed demon in the pouring rain. Several flying creatures surround the creature on the ground, calling out directions, north, west, and south. Several hooded men shout about being completely surrounded, expressing determination and tension. Fang plummets from above onto the massive beast, preparing to attack. Fang delivers a powerful blow to the red-eyed creature, causing it to scream in pain. The image shows a creature with red eyes violently jumping towards a man in blue clothing, creating a powerful impact and destroying the ground around him. A huge creature with cracks on its body makes a loud sound, as if something is breaking or collapsing inside it. A huge monster with red eyes and sharp fangs emerges from the darkness, ready to attack. She screams in the rain, expressing strong emotions. A vortex of energy ejects several people in blue clothing, and in the center appears the silhouette of a black dragon. Fang asks if the commander is okay as they watch the flying creature in the city. Fang, wounded and tense, holds his hand and expresses anger or pain in the rain. The image shows a huge winged creature with a green light on its head, making a loud noise against a background of vertical lines. In the darkness above the city, a dragon with a green glow appears, surrounded by clouds of black smoke. A red-eyed monster spews a green glow in the dark, creating an ominous atmosphere. Two hooded women warn of a corrosive dark energy that destroys materials on contact. The group in the smoke forms a battle formation. One warns everyone to be on guard and reports the need to gather intelligence and adjust the battle plan. Fang holds his knife tensely, preparing to attack, while sinister red eyes can be seen below, threatening him. Fang screams and falls towards the huge red-eyed dragon, which lands hard, causing an explosion. Two hooded men are shouting and expressing anger. One of them looks particularly tense and aggressive. From the dark sky above the city, glowing creatures with wings fall, leaving behind green smoke. Three men in cloaks are watching the city in the rain. One notices a sharp surge of spiritual energy and says he will go inside, and the rest should stay outside. Chu suggests first assessing the concentration of spiritual energy by standing with four other people in a dark room. Fang looks closely at Chu, who checks the device on her wrist and tells the time. Fang notes that the current concentration has exceeded 80 and continues to rise rapidly. Fang and Chu, along with a group of people, appear from the fog in a dark room, illuminated by light and a green flame above them. Fang and Chu turned around abruptly at the loud sound behind them, expressing surprise. Chu warns Fang to retreat quickly as they cannot stay in place for long with the ominous green-eyed figure watching them. Fang explains that if the enemy tries to stop them, the gates will open, and calls on them to follow him so that they can work together to open the passage. Fang jerks forward, making a noise of displeasure. Fang collapses, realizing his eyes and body are poisoned by the gas, while an ominous shadow with green eyes watches him. Fang shouts, asking if everything is okay while standing against the backdrop of green lighting and construction. She recalls with dismay that Zhu Yi deliberately brought them to this factory, expressing doubt and tension. An ominous snake with bright green glowing eyes appears in front of them against a dark background. A character with long blonde hair explains that the black fog is toxic and poisons them from the moment they enter it. A character with blue hair and twin tails explains that using spiritual energy to attack will quickly drain their strength and lead to defeat. Fang lies on the ground and ponders the monster, noting its combat intelligence and strength, as well as its cunning in setting traps. Fang lies on the floor and looks up at the light coming through the hole in the ceiling. Fang looks ahead tensely. A sharp sound is heard, as if something is breaking or tearing. The explosion destroys the room, and in its center, a silhouette with wings is seen hovering in the air. The image shows a close-up of a face, showing signs of fatigue and light scratches, with no obvious signs of the presence of characters from the list. Fang looks down intently, as if preparing for action or observing something important. The image shows a snake-like dark entity with bright green eyes looming in a room with a metal structure. Fang explains that the one in front of them is a darkness-type deviation, while standing with his sword on his shoulder. The image shows a huge monster with a green eye, its mouth open in a vicious manner, preparing to attack. Fang slams into the wall with force, causing debris to shatter and explode. Fang encounters a furious beast that lets out a loud cry. Fang notices that there are two aberrants here as one of them attacks him from above. Fang smiles as the red-eyed creature bites his hand, drawing blood. Fang casts a spell with a smile, causing lightning to shoot towards Chu in the air. A snake with green eyes spews fire as lightning strikes glass below. Fang challenges his opponent to not be afraid of fire, creating flames and lightning around him in a tense battle atmosphere. The image shows a huge, evil creature with an open mouth and a glowing green eye, making a loud noise. Fang charges forward, delivering a powerful blow with his golden weapon, breaking through the wall. Fang strikes sharply, his eyes glowing with a bright fire, and the movement is accompanied by a powerful flash of energy. A huge snake-like monster with green eyes appears in a dark dungeon, ready to attack. Fang delivers a powerful blow with his glowing sword to the huge creature with green eyes, piercing its mouth. Fang delivers a powerful blow with his glowing sword to a huge green dragon in a dark room. Fang abruptly dodges the flaming sword strike, expressing surprise. A snake-like creature with a green light appears in the huge hall and notices the hidden technique. The image shows a powerful electrical discharge, accompanied by a scream and someone quietly chuckling. Fang thought to himself that he had sensed in advance that the snake's dark aura was stronger than Zhu Ye's, standing with his sword in front of the bright explosion of energy. Fang explains that he used the blade as a conduit to focus and direct the power of thunder into the snake's body. Fang watches the huge flame in which a snake is visible and thinks about it. Fang notices snake scales appearing on his shoulder and expresses surprise and pain. Fang carefully opens his clothes, revealing a deep wound on his chest. Fang thinks he's looking at a cunning, mutated creature with advanced intelligence and deadly stealth attacks as he lights fire on his hands. Fang touches his eye, which is emitting smoke, showing an unusual state. Fang feels his body fill with energy and pain, warning of approaching enemy attacks. Fang explains that for others, the poison may be incurable despite their protective abilities, as long as he kneels next to the person. Against a red light, a snake-like creature with green eyes and a beast with red eyes stand on a pile of skulls, and the text says that cooperation is a trap for elite hunters. Huge skeletons are shown against the backdrop of the fire, and the character's thoughts state that the creature has likely consumed many, including several vanguards who have not joined the official team. Fang stands in front of a burning dinosaur skeleton and muses that the inner flame is powerful, but the triple damage lightning is still more effective. Fang stands in front of the fire with a sword on his back and remains silent, not saying a word. Fang stands in front of a large flame, watching the fire coming from it. Fang reaches out his hand to the fire, trying to touch it. Fang, surrounded by smoke and fire, notices someone choking and coughing in the distance. She is breathing heavily and looks exhausted, surrounded by smoke and a tense atmosphere. Fang notices a girl from the association, and Chu demands that he stop pretending. Fang kneels over someone and looks at them with a serious expression, as if asking a question or making a remark. A character with long blonde hair covers his face with his hands and explains that he woke up because of the suffocating smell and was not pretending. Fang silently looks at Chu, who shyly thanks him for the compliment. On the floor of a dark room lie the charred remains of a huge creature, surrounded by smoke and sparks. Fang covers his eyes with his hands and thinks about defeating Zhu Ye and the giant snake. Fang stands with a sword on his back and looks back as if waiting or listening for something. She explains the situation in a panic, pointing to her hands and expressing concern. Fang says there's too much talking and leaves the cleaning to Chu, flying into the air through a hole in the roof. Fang falls rapidly from a height, hitting the surface of a building at night. Fang thinks to herself that it's a good thing she didn't see him trying to absorb the dark element and finds the sensation unpleasant and disgusting. Fang watches Chu jumping from a height against the backdrop of a full moon in a city at night. Fang slaps the man hard across the face, pinning him against the wall. He lies with a tired expression on his face and says something, expressing weakness or pain. She is silent, smiling, and he shouts at her with obvious irritation and surprise. Three characters, including Chu, look in surprise at the burning bones in front of them. Fang and Chu stand in the distance watching the burning remains, and he says that the vanguard has come to them, which he believes is his target. She speaks thoughtfully of him as his silhouette appears in the background. Fang speaks with a tense expression, and two men behind him listen attentively and look at him. A man concentrates on creating a magical clot of energy in his hand, surrounded by glowing green and blue streams. He stands holding out his hand to a glowing ball from which green rays emanate, directed at black tentacles surrounded by fragments. Fang smashes the ground beneath him with a powerful kick surrounded by electricity. He summons energy while standing on the ground with lightning sparking as she watches him from behind. There is a piece of debris on the ground with sparkling blue electrical discharges creating a tense atmosphere. Fang explains that this is Zhu Ye's body and notes the incredibly pure thunder energy as they both examine it. Chu thoughtfully thinks about how to explain that there was only one person here, realizing that no one would believe such a story. Fang and Chu stand in a hall with a hole in the roof, illuminated by a beam of light, surrounded by sharp bones, discussing the genius of one of the attributes. Fang casts Flamewalker of the Sun, while the fiery figure is surrounded by flames. Fang is surrounded by lightning and holds a burning weapon, thinking about the monster called Thunder Tyrant and wondering what kind of monster he is. Two cars with headlights on drive up to the closed gates, and off-camera they say that the association has sent investigators to collect the bodies. Several investigators with flashlights examine huge footprints on the ground in the dark as they investigate the crime scene. Fang, wearing a protective suit and mask, shows a glowing tablet while two others look at it carefully. Fang and she look forward intently, expressing the seriousness and tension of the moment. Man talking on phone while drinking hot drink in office. She explains that he is not against the association and is not their enemy. Fang says that he previously felt a powerful aura and suspected the presence of a spirit weapon, but now he knows that they are facing a dual high-attribute vanguard. The man on the phone speculates that the energy of the spiritual weapon may come from his own yang attribute. Fang floats in the air, surrounded by an explosion of energy and flying rocks, displaying power capable of destroying the earth. She is surprised to think that there are less than 5 perfume creators in the world. He is surrounded by many people and explains that the object has 3 attributes that can change the entire vanguard landscape, although research shows that such attributes are usually repelled. A man with a mustache speaks tensely on the phone, expressing seriousness and concern. Fang stands in the shower, wondering if such a powerful avant-garde will become an enemy of humanity. Fang, wiping the sweat from his body, reflects on the fact that there is less than a year left until the official revival of spiritual energy. But anomalies and natural disturbances are already intensifying. Fang trains with concentration, creating a fiery flame on his hand, and reflects on how many fighters have started training on their own. Fang speculates that after discovering the connection between the body and the spirit world, one can feel changes more acutely, like a group in an underground river, and that independent avant-garde reach at least the first stage of the ghost without national recognition. Fang places his black jacket on the couch, preparing for action. Fang explains that the official and wild vanguards are in a quiet observation stage, and the anomalies remain under government control without major conflicts. Fang, with his eyes closed, pulls the black scarf over himself, holding it tightly with his hands. With city skyscrapers in the background, people are said to be discussing instability and danger, while the government is trying to protect the public and quietly sound the alarm. Fang muses out loud that the government is not confident in opening up the cultivation era to everyone. Fang stands in front of a burning, destroyed building and talks about how the disclosure of information will cause chaos, riots, and mass deaths, and the existing forces will not be able to cope with the unrest. Fang stands in front of a sinister dragon with green eyes and a mountain of skulls, surrounded by red and blue light. Fang looks forward with concentration, and behind him appears the image of a furious beast with an open mouth. A huge dragon with green eyes holds Fang in its mouth, and he tries to free himself while another person stands nearby. Fang muses on the possibility of absorbing the system and using the dark attribute, expressing hope for a better outcome. Fang explains that he has the Golden Sun breathing technique, Divine Thunder and Inner Flame for his Red Fireblade technique, as well as the power of the Ghost Axe. Fang stands with a proud expression, his eyes glowing orange and blue lightning flashing around him against a yellow background. Fang looks closely at the phone screen, noticing something unexpected. She sits in a chair and smiles while talking on the phone. Fang is talking on the phone, and in the background stands a silent woman in a headscarf holding a book. 2 girls stand, one holding a stack of books, the other holding one book, both looking forward, expressionless. Fang talks on the phone in a room, holding the device to his ear and listening intently to the person he's talking to. He sits in front of the computer and tells her that she will arrive tomorrow afternoon, and he leaves her in his care. He is wearing a hoodie and brightly glowing glasses and asks if the other person has packed their things. A man in a hoodie and glasses sits in the room, and a woman appears in the doorway and says something. She says the hotel was okay. He says it's not safe and he trusts her cousin more. She's warning about something by raising her finger as someone in a hood tries to push the door. She stands by the door in the dark, wearing a hood with ears. her glowing eyes attracting attention. She lifts her glasses, looking forward with a serious expression in the darkness. Against the backdrop of city buildings and bright sunshine, passers-by walk down the street, creating the atmosphere of an ordinary day in a metropolis. She is walking down the street with a suitcase on wheels, on which a small teddy bear is hanging, with an apartment building visible in the background. She stands on the street with a suitcase and hands someone a white card, looking up. Fang suddenly appears on the porch of a house, causing a surprised reaction from a woman with dark hair. She looks forward with a neutral expression, as if waiting for an answer or reaction from the interlocutor. Fang goes into the house, and she thinks that her cousin is easy to get along with and will not interfere in her affairs. She sits on the couch, surrounded by glowing blue flames, lost in her thoughts. She looks at her phone and thinks that since she just came, it's better not to start cultivating right away. Fang sits silently as a woman in a towel emerges from the shower and adjusts the towel on her shoulder. He sits in the lotus position on the bed, surrounded by a bright yellow glow. Chu brings the hot dish to the table, where Fang looks at the treat with interest. Fang says he will remain a guest and is willing to help with the dishes while Chu brings food to the table. Fang thinks part of his goal is to get her to really relax around him while they eat at the table. Fang reflects that only then will he be able to understand the true nature of the woman who eats without paying attention to him. Fang announces that he will go to his room, and Chu reacts with surprise at the food table. She looks at the phone silently, not saying a word. She sits on the bed with a suitcase and asks on the phone when this will happen. Fang said he would meet her at the entrance of Yanghuo City, while she sat inside and talked on the phone. Fang stares intently at the glowing blue flames in front of him against the night sky. Fang watches Chu meditate in the air, surrounded by blue flames emanating from him. A woman meditates surrounded by blue flames, and a voiceover says that she is still in school, but has already reached the level of Ghost Axe Realm and is close to advancing. Fang watches the sunset over the city and muses that someone must have learned of the great change. Fang, jumping with force, declared that everything he heard would become his. A woman with glasses looks forward with concentration. Blue energy flows shine around her. Fang stands by the open window, watching the full moon and mountains in the night sky. Panorama of Yanghuo City with sunrays breaking through clouds over mountains and buildings. In the background of the gate of the city of Yanhuo, surrounded by mountains and people, the sound of yi-yi can be heard, but the characters are not visible. The woman asked the silent girl how her cousin was, calling him handsome while gently placing her hand on her head. She muses out loud that this is an ordinary person, not an internet celebrity, whom the interlocutor likes. He sighs wearily and says it's a bit disappointing as she stands there with her arms crossed. Chu looks at Fang, who stands proudly with her arms crossed, and the text refers to her as the magnificent Lady Fang. Fang, sitting on the bench, said it was time to get down to business while the other two stood nearby. Fang asks if the situation is repeating itself, and Chu replies that there are only 6 of them and she still hasn't come. Chu says she's always been mysterious and suggests they move on as the group walks down the street. Fang sits at a table on the balcony and watches a group of people walking down the street below. Fang looks ahead and notices something, saying that it looks like a certain situation. A group of 6 people moves through a mystical space, and one of them talks about star ranks and strong team members. Fang sits at a table with 1 glass of water, lost in thought in a bright room. Against the backdrop of mountains in a village, a liana appears hanging from the sky, as announced by a voiceover. The voice explains that the vine appears randomly in Yanhuo, and its nature is unclear even to the scouts. Fang explained that this big change is not related to the weather or the collapse of the surface, given the city's view and the unusual natural phenomenon. Several figures are walking along a forest path in the fog. Their faces and names are not visible. She looks worried and tense, and he is also agitated and sweating, being next to her against the backdrop of the forest. She said that if she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed what was happening, as all 4 of them looked at the glowing green object. She listens attentively as he, wearing a cap and a backpack, talks about something important in a mysterious place. She holds the straps of her backpack anxiously, feeling the tension and fear in her surroundings. Chu asked if they had seen the rumors on the internal forum as the group listened to her against the backdrop of a green swirl. Chu watches with concern as the 4 men are surrounded by flames, with Fang standing among them with a cold expression. Chu says that after that, everyone disappeared while they were standing in front of a tree with human skeletons woven into its roots. She clutches her cap to her head in panic and thinks that she doesn't want to be like them. A group of 6 people stand against an ominous red and black background, surrounded by dark shadows and smoke, sensing the absence of a grave. She is surrounded by glowing green energies, and says that when she saw this creature she felt fear, and her intuition tells her that this is a new powerful anomaly. Chu and she are discussing something serious in front of a foggy forest, expressing concern and thoughtfulness. Fang explains that everyone senses an empty aura within the woodvine, to which she agrees. Chu squeezes the other man's hand and declares that this is the way of the martial pioneers. Fang watches the group of people below from above, feeling the strong energy of death and thinking about the unusual anomaly of the vine. The image shows a huge green plant, which one of the characters muses is supposed to symbolize life, but appears fake and dead. She stands on a cliff and suggests that due to the danger, they limit themselves to sensations only, while 2 people listen to her below. Fang watches Chu sitting on the edge of a cliff and another man meditating by a tree as she stands on a branch and begins to speak. She meditates with concentration while floating in a blue energy ball on a tree branch in the middle of nature. Fang stands on a cliff in the misty mountains and notes that he chose the location for maximum benefit without being reckless or cowardly. Chu meditates intently, surrounded by energy that sparkles and pulsates around her. Fang watches the explosion of energy and is surprised that it has almost reached the 3-star threshold. Chu is amazed by his cousin's talent, while another person is surprised to see that she is already using the Ghost Axe 3 stars technique. The tree's roots begin to glow green and move as if coming to life in the dark forest. Fang warns that something is coming as she and another man look anxiously at the green tentacles behind them. Several people panic and try to escape from the green tentacles. One screams for help after being caught in their grip. He warns that the Yi breakthrough is too noisy and warns that they cannot let the vine wrap around them, otherwise the aura of devastation will stick and they will instantly melt. She is focused, surrounded by cracks and green shadows against a bright blue light. Chu insists that they can't leave or Yayi will get into trouble, and he replies that he won't use his spiritual energy to protect her since she chose this place herself. Fang says that life and death are predetermined, but wealth and honor are in heaven, and warns that if they don't leave now, it will be too late. Fang exhales sharply and forcefully, expressing surprise or tension. Chu calls loudly to his partner, expressing urgency and concern. Fang watches Chu and the others walk away, thinking that his cousin probably doesn't realize the danger she's in now. She is surrounded by dark tentacles and thinks that time may not be enough. Fang said he promised his aunt to take care of her while clutching the hilt of his sword against the bright light. Chu delivers a powerful kick, ripping apart the green tentacles that surround Fang as he tries to defend himself. Chu screams in pain as green tentacles wrap tightly around her body and legs. She stands calmly as a powerful blow shatters the glass next to her. Fang jumps in the air surrounded by a glowing orange sword, preparing to attack. Chu screams in horror, and Fang looks away in alarm as if something is threatening them both. Depicts a fiery explosion or flame falling rapidly downwards with no visible characters. The image shows a powerful explosion with a bright column of fire and flying debris with no visible characters. Fang flies into the air, creating a massive explosion of fire and destruction around him. Chu noticed that the vine was retreating and asked Fang, who was standing next to her, about it. Fang is surrounded by bright energy, his silhouette standing out against the exploding green and yellow flash. Fang, covering his face with his hand, wonders if this is also a forerunner. The image shows a woman with long black hair looking down thoughtfully while a man with stubble smiles nearby. Fang, holding a glowing sword, ponders out loud about the meaning of their existence compared to other predecessors. Fang stands on top of a cliff, and the man below says that he crushed not only him, but all the predecessors. Fang, surrounded by yellow light, asks with a serious expression what kind of existence this is. Fang uses a powerful technique with a wood attribute, explaining that with life nearby, it works like a perpetual motion machine, constantly recharging. Fang closes his eyes in concentration, surrounded by green energy streams from which an attribute is extracted that causes a destructive aura. Fang stands with his sword, surrounded by green energy, and ponders that the vine can only grow in such a dangerous area. Fang stands against a backdrop of mountains and forest, looking thoughtfully to the side, vines hanging in the air. Chu, injured and leaning on her arm, speaks to Fang, who stands in front of her against a backdrop of mountainous terrain. Fang explains that he obtained the life force and devastation attribute using the information of others while Chu listens to him in the forest. Fang stands next to a worried girl in a cap who looks tense and sweating. Fang suddenly takes off with a spear in hand, and Chu and two others watch him as he muses that in a crisis, the true nature of people is revealed. Fang looks away silently, while Chu anxiously explains the situation, visibly worried. Fang, Chu, and another person watch as a girl with long hair sits in a glowing protective field on the ground. Fang and Chu watch as the girl jumps towards the woman in the dress, and one of them says that now it all depends on the situation. Fang asks Chu what happened as they stand among the fallen people in fog, and he begins to tell them what happened. She noticed the fire on the tree and noted with alarm that even at such a distance it was visible. Fang says something while looking at Chu, who turns away with a thoughtful expression. She approaches a building with columns, thinking about someone important. The image shows a man with dark hair asking a girl with long black hair if there is a strong. Fang explains that one attack from the enemy knocked back a vine that they couldn't cut and asks if she saw it. Fang and Chu watch as the vine curls in midair, and he explains that it is completely changed. She approaches the door in the hallway and tries to open it. Fang smiles and Chu suddenly enters the room expressing surprise. She thoughtfully raised her finger to her temple, as if trying to remember or explain something. Fang asks if there will be a meeting tonight, to which Chu agrees, heading for the door. She stands at the door and thinks that the breakthrough requires too much mental energy and full concentration to control the spiritual power of the divine acts. She lies on the couch with her phone in her hands and thinks that insomnia won't kill her. Fang calmly walks down the steps of a building surrounded by columns, surrounded by falling leaves. She looks in surprise at something next to her face, partially covered by her gloved hand. Fang reads a message from Garen asking to be notified if more traces of the strong substance appear. Fang stands surrounded by flames, and the narrative warns of its power and the danger of encountering it in places of upheaval. Fang stands with a bicycle and says that leaving Xiaolu in the hospital is also okay. Fang rides his bike along a road at night surrounded by trees and grass. Fang stands in a dark place with bones and skulls, looking ahead intently, lost in thought. Fang sees a figure surrounded by green flames in front of him and realizes that everything is in his hands. The image shows a strange vine, and the voiceover explains its connection to the spiritual energy of rebirth and the attribute of devastation. Fang rides his bike on a night road in the mountains under the light of the full moon. Fang stands by his bicycle on a lit street in the evening, looking thoughtfully ahead, surrounded by the shadows of trees and streetlights. Fang explains that he must choose a plant that resonates with his spiritual energy and shows affinity for it to become lucky. Fang floats in the air, surrounded by glowing green energies in the forest at night. He watches how plants react to spiritual energy, marveling at their response. Against the backdrop of glowing green plants, someone can be heard musing that the energy is growing, but still not enough. He is surrounded by green energy and says he needs more power. Fang looks up in surprise, noticing something against the night sky with a full moon. Fang stands in a dark forest and looks at a glowing flower, wondering if this is the one he was looking for. Fang carefully touches a glowing flower in a night forest surrounded by twinkling lights. The image shows a glowing flower with white petals and a yellow center against a background of green grass. Fang carefully touches a glowing flower while sitting in the grass in the night forest. Fang carefully touches the petals of the glowing flower, studying it. Fang carefully reaches for a flower in a forest surrounded by fireflies and soft light. Fang said decisively that the choice was made and asked if he was ready, while green energy swirled around him. Fang, surrounded by green energy, created a glowing plant on his palm and confirmed his action with the word yes. Fang lands with a powerful blast of energy in the night forest, surrounded by glowing green streams. Fang looks ahead with a serious expression against the sky and trees, making a sound of surprise or realization. The image shows a glowing green flower against a dark forest background with no visible characters. The image shows a glowing flower with drops of water on its leaves, surrounded by a mysterious atmosphere with no visible characters. Fang stands in the forest, watching a flower that emits a green mystical glow. Fang stands in a dark forest and contemplates the powerful force of devastation, comparing it to a demon's hand. Fang notices that the city's forest ring is too dominant and continues to spread rapidly. The image shows a glowing flower that gradually decreases in size with no visible characters. He pulls a glowing plant out of the ground and warns that it will attract people from the Spirit Chi Association. Fang reflects on how the plants in the city center are under threat due to the revival of the Qi spirit, and notices that there are many surveillance cameras in the park and the surrounding area is empty. Fang is surprised that the plant continues to absorb energy despite the lack of roots. Fang notices abnormal glow of flower in forest and records excess of norm. Fang, with green energy in his hand, said it was time to leave and quickly soared upwards. In Spirit Qi's plant research department, several people are discussing data on a series of red screens, working intently on a project. At night, Fang and Chu walk through a forest where the trees gradually give way to scorched earth. Several people in hazmat suits explore the forest at night. One reports that readings at the North Gate fluctuated between 8 and 10, and at the Dark River, Molten Dragon, 25. Fang and Chu, wearing masks, watch as a hooded man walks into a night forest surrounded by bare trees. Fang screams with a tense expression, his eyes hidden by the glare of his glasses. Three men in protective suits discuss the situation in a dark forest. One of them expresses concern, while the other warns of possible danger. A man in a hazmat suit reports with alarm a strange giant plant has appeared against the backdrop of mountains and a gloomy sky. Two people in hazmat suits discuss that the demonic vine has already been classified as Level A. He explains that the reason for the deadly danger is related to the attribute of devastation, which killed many pioneers. He is wearing a protective suit with a tense expression and is sweating, feeling fear or anxiety. A group of hooded people stand in a forest. One of them says something to the others, illuminated by a dim light. The image shows a rotting giant tree that has polluted the entire forest and is smashing through everything that comes near it. A hooded man warns against underestimating plant mutations while talking to two other people in a dark forest. A hooded man turns around sharply when someone places a hand on his shoulder. Fang, in a uniform with a cloak, stands at the head of a group of hooded men, all looking down as if examining something important or disturbing. Three men in uniform hold helmets with masks while two in protective suits prepare to put them on, showing tension and anxiety. Someone steps on a crack in the ground in a dark forest, causing a cracking sound. A group of people with flashlights and protective suits are walking through a dark forest. One of them notices that only the vine could move and wonders if this is true. Fang gives an order and Chu listens carefully to his answer. Fang and Chu simultaneously call upon energy by concentrating on their hands, surrounded by glowing blue streams and falling leaves. Fang and Chu use magic, sending blue streams of energy towards a group of masked people standing in front of them in a dark forest. Glowing blue and green streams of energy fall down, and someone is surprised to notice that this is something special. Fang and Chu look ahead with concern, watching the scene tensely. Fang speaks seriously about the possibility of finding something in the wasteland, while a man in a hazmat suit listens anxiously. Fang studies the glowing tablet carefully, and she watches him in surprise in the dark forest. She holds a dossier with Fang's photo and details in her hands, studying the information about him. He touches the brim of his hat and considers what to do next. She stands in a dark forest and looks closely at the glowing tablet in her hands. Fang addresses the flower affectionately, calling it an obedient little white flower. The image shows a glowing white flower in a pot surrounded by green leaves and glowing particles, with no visible characters. Fang looks closely at the flower, gently touching its petals. Fang recalls that he and the other boy were classmates and were walking down the school corridor together, talking. Fang smiles, holding the phone to his ear and starting a conversation. Fang speaks on the phone, offering to meet at the usual place. He laughs while talking on the phone and scratching the back of his head. Fang, Chu, and a man in a cap are sitting at a table in a room with sunlight, discussing something serious. The man explains his point of view. Fang grabbed something sharply, and the sounds of impact and tension were heard. She stands with her arms crossed in front of the table, on which there is a cup of steam, and speaks seriously. Fang thinks about Wang Liang that he has become much more mature as the two men drink beer at the table. Fang raises his hand to his chest as the other man places his mug on the table with force. On a destroyed street, a wounded soldier sits in blood with a weapon, and behind the scenes, they say that in the chaos there was no news, and he probably sacrificed himself. Fang presses his hand to his face, expressing fatigue and tension. An envelope marked "Confidential" is shown against the backdrop of a guarded military base, along with text stating that he is already a suspect and is being tracked by the military. Fang looks in surprise at the vibrating phone lying on the table next to him. Fang stands at the table with a cup while another man talks tensely on the phone. Fang sits at the table, and the man says in a hurry that the mission is urgent and he cannot see him off. Fang turned around abruptly, noticing something unexpected, and a drop of sweat and surprise appeared on his face. Fang grabbed the other man by the collar and started talking to him, addressing him as you. Fang stands against the backdrop of gloomy mountains, looking ahead with a serious expression. Fang and another man walk along a road to a military base where they are met by soldiers against a backdrop of a gloomy sky and mountains. Fang stands in the center surrounded by soldiers, one of whom reports his arrival. Fang walks down the corridor, surrounded by uniformed soldiers who line up on either side of him. Fang and the other man look at the sudden appearance of a huge shadow with sharp teeth, causing them to be shocked and afraid. A group of fighters surrounded a huge monstrous wolf with red eyes, from which blue lightning and dark energy emanated. A crowd of fighters with weapons and energy effects prepare to attack the fire-breathing monster, while Fang and Chu watch from afar. Fang and Chu fight their opponents, delivering powerful blows, causing one of the enemies to scream in pain. Fang turns to Chu, who is standing nearby, but her face is not visible. Officer Ji-lan reports that several soldiers have already been seriously injured. Chu sternly reprimands the man for bringing a stranger into a restricted area without permission. Fang says something sharply with an angry expression, his hair fluttering in the wind. Chu turns to Fang, who is standing in the shadows, and she begins to speak, drawing his attention to her. Chu stands with his weapon and loudly calls out to Zhang Mi and Li Yu, preparing for action. Fang and Chu simultaneously attack the huge monstrous beast, releasing powerful blue energy beams from above. Chu fires his weapon, causing a powerful explosion with bright flashes and lightning. The image shows a huge black head with an open mouth, surrounded by red flashes and energy, creating an atmosphere of fury and power. Fang warns that the mutation has gotten worse, amid bright red claws and a vicious creature. Fang warns Li Yu of the danger as he stands on the edge and prepares to jump. Fang quickly parries a powerful blow aimed at him. Chu fires her gun furiously while Fang watches from afar. Chu releases a powerful purple energy, hitting multiple enemies who fall under its impact. Chu orders no one to retreat, and another person confirms her words. He stands before a huge demon with glowing red eyes and claws, surrounded by flames and smoke. The image shows a close-up of an ominous red eye, surrounded by dark shadows, with no characters visible. The image shows a man wearing a cap who looks scared and tense. Chu shouts Wang Liang's name, and Fang, with tension and sparkles in his eyes, says, "Not a god!" Fang leaps forward to attack a huge black monster with red eyes and a mouth that spews bright light. Fang clenched her fist and said something furiously, and he looked at her silently. Fang leaves, and the man in the hat with blood coming out of his mouth expresses pain or shock. Fang suddenly deals a fatal blow to the man in the gray uniform, blood spurting from his chest. Fang watches a man with blood coming out of his mouth who explains that he's having a backlash. A man has black liquid coming out of his mouth. He looks exhausted and tense, and another figure is visible behind him. Fang thrusts his revolver into the ground, causing an explosion of rocks and dust. Chu screams in rage, clutching her weapon as three men surround her, preparing to fight. Fang and Chu, along with the others, stand in front of a huge demon with red eyes and a fiery appearance, preparing to fight. Fang falls or hits suddenly, accompanied by a loud sound. Chu looks anxiously at something out of frame, with glowing energy visible below. Fang concentrates and releases a powerful blue energy blast from his hand, surrounded by lightning. Fang, with a shining eye and electricity around him, says that this is quite arrogant. Fang fires a powerful blast of energy at a massive demon with red eyes and claws as it prepares to attack. Fang attacks with a powerful blow, saying, "Then let this divine thunder," as a vicious creature with red eyes appears before him. Fang orders an upgrade and strike as a powerful blue energy blast hits the red-eyed monster. Fang releases a powerful blue energy blast, striking the dark figures around him. Two men panic as they duck away from an explosion or collapse. One of them exclaims in fear. He panics and says that even Officer Ji-lan can't handle this alone. Chu tensely says that none of them made a mistake, while Fang looks worried and sweats. Fang stands before the huge fire monster and says that it is indeed a tyrant. Chu stands in front with a determined expression, and behind her stand three men in uniform, ready for action. Fang displays the most extreme form of lightning, marking its highest level even in the current Xia nation. Chu watches the electricity coming from his hand with alarm and wonders how scary it will become. Chu stands with his back to the viewer and looks at a bright blue vortex in the sky from which lightning strikes. Fang walks confidently amidst a powerful explosion of energy, and in his thoughts sounds the recognition of his dignity as a tyrant. Fang stares ahead with concentration, electrical energy sparkling around him. Fang rubs his neck in pain while the other man nervously places his hand on his chest, expressing concern. The man in uniform smiles and throws a punch at Fang, who takes the blow with surprise and slight alarm. Fang grabbed the man by the collar with a smile, and he scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Fang and Chu stand next to each other. He looks at her, and she turns her back to him, looking into the distance. She extends her hand forward, inviting cooperation or dialogue against the backdrop of mountainous terrain. Fang suddenly grabbed Chu's hand, expressing surprise or protest. She firmly states that she will not allow anyone to be harmed, clenching her fist on her chest. Fang looks at his interlocutor with a smile, and judging by his expression, he is having a calm conversation. She says that she alone, being a zone security officer, will not be able to cope with anything. The woman explains that they acted on orders from their superiors to understand the situation and not to drag them into the anomaly. Chu and Fang stand against the backdrop of mountains. She looks serious, and he watches her with a slight smile. She looks forward with a serious expression on her face, as if preparing for an important conversation or action. Fang says that he and Wang Liang should take care of the mutant dog's body, and someone will be sent to accompany the others. Chu is standing nearby with security. Fang walks forward with his hands in his pockets, followed by a group of soldiers and Chu in military uniform. Against the backdrop of a bridge over a river, the idea of the need to draw a defensive line between ordinary people and anomalies is heard. Fang stands in front, surrounded by soldiers, while Chu watches from behind, creating a tense atmosphere before a possible conflict. Fang suggests that if she is not suitable for recruitment, then he, his childhood friend, can take care of it. Chu grabbed the man by the hair and yanked him back sharply, expressing anger and determination. At night, a lighted window in the building is visible through the trees, and a voice tells that despite being exposed, he used no powers other than lightning. Fang meditates in the lotus position, surrounded by a bright, energetic glow. Fang appears in a bright light outside the broken window, and the soldiers below are amazed and discuss how the military really desires this power to contain the darkness. Fang takes a deep breath, preparing for something important or stressful. Chu and Fang stand back to back under symbols, representing their roles as protectors of the nation and spiritual energy. On the night street with bright signs, they say that the authorities protect ordinary people from the forbidden zones and buy their time to avoid destruction and displacement by anomalies. Fang meditates with concentration, emitting a bright light from the center of his chest, surrounded by a vortex of energy. Fang meditates surrounded by yellow energy, reflecting that even subduing the power of devastation has not brought him any closer to breaking through to the spiritually rich forbidden zone. Fang feels spiritual energy filling his body, which he takes as a sign of an imminent breakthrough. A man in a cap stands on a street at night, and a woman with a bag watches him from the shadows, surrounded by city buildings and streetlights. Fang walks down the street towards Chu, who is calmly walking with a bag in her hands, while in the background, a woman walks away. He stands on the street and looks at the bright golden light coming from behind the buildings in the distance. She is shocked and looks ahead with anxiety, as if she has just heard something very important and unexpected. Fang notices the fluctuations in the development of the Ghost Act stage and realizes that it is not just a fluctuation, but a terrifying aura. Against the backdrop of a dark sky with a vortex, a bright column of energy with lightning rapidly soars upward, destroying the buildings below. She notices a powerful energy in the sky and realizes that it is not a ghost soldier, but something much stronger. A glowing golden hand appears in the sky, and someone is surprised that such a powerful pioneer is next to him. She looks up anxiously, holding the bag in her hand and feeling the tension of the moment. A warning appears on the screen about reaching an abnormal value of 99 and a magnetic field of spiritual energy 5 kilometers southeast of the city. The man holds the phone in a panic, and she says in surprise that such a powerful anomaly could not have gone unnoticed until now. A group of people watch a holographic model of a city, and one of them wonders if this is a harbinger of a great catastrophe. Fang screams into the phone, expressing intense excitement and tension. A security guard radios in an approaching threat, while another stands guard at the door as a man in dark clothing emerges. Fang stands against the bright firelight, watching the scene intently. She came into the room and said that she was back. Chu brought the food and asked if her cousin had eaten it, to which he replied that he would save it for later. She looks worried and tense with a bead of sweat on her cheek, as if she is worrying or thinking about a difficult situation. She looks away thoughtfully as Fang sits on the couch, fiddling with something in her hands. She lies on the bed with her arms outstretched and her eyes closed, as if she is resting or unconscious. Fang reflects on the short video and decides that he needs to contact Chu to check in person. A group of people at the closed gates ask security if it is true that the university caught fire and the fire could not be extinguished. Fang and Chu walk down the hallway, discussing what's going on campus. Fang and Chu walk towards the gate. The guards are surprised by their confidence as the crowd watches them. Fang and Chu stand at the gate, looking ahead confidently against a backdrop of a sky with clouds. Fang asked if it was called Heavenly Fire, to which she confirmed that it was the official name while watching the burning ruins. Helicopters fly over the burning forest, and someone remarks that this is appropriate. Fang looks at Chu as she walks away, and he wonders why she is doing this. Fang walks along the sidewalk near a building with columns, heading towards the stairs. Fang kneels on the rocks, holding a yellow and black ribbon, and looks ahead intently. Fang looks at the two girls standing, one of whom says that they should be careful. Chu and Fang look at the man standing near the burning field and discuss whether the incident is related to the college. A woman with red hair stands silently, while another with short dark hair laughs and says that reality is clear and it's time to let go. Fang overhears someone say that the stranger is probably chasing the school's hottie, while another remarks that he has never been seen at their school. She points her finger and speaks reproachfully to the man who listens calmly to her. She looks forward thoughtfully without expressing any emotions. Chu reacts with surprise to the words or actions of another person standing next to her. Chu explained that he was just a classmate while chatting with Fang and another woman with red hair. Fang looks forward with a slight smile, his face partially hidden by shadow and glasses. She and Chu look ahead anxiously, feeling a sudden sense of fear and tension. Chu said that the advisor should also come, turning to Fang, who was listening to her. A group of men in suits stand in a courtyard, one with a cane in the center, all looking down, creating a tense atmosphere. Chu, with a determined expression, addresses a group of people who look surprised and worried. A man with a cane stands in the sun, and in his thoughts it is noted that he never smiled. Chu looks serious, and he smiles and crosses his arms with glasses, expressing confidence and a slight mockery. Fang and Chu stand in front of an elderly man with a cane and three guards in dark suits who watch them closely. Fang and the man with the cane shake hands, expressing mutual agreement or greeting. Fang assigned man to handle playground incident, supporting elderly man with cane while others stood around them. Chu looks forward in surprise, her face illuminated by shadows, creating a tense atmosphere. Fang and an older man shake hands as guards demand they step back, and the crowd expresses alarm and tries to back away. Chu looks ahead in surprise, surrounded by people who are paying attention to her. She walks through the crowd, her face hidden in shadow, creating an atmosphere of mystery and tension. Chu stands in the center, surrounded by dark figures who look at her intently.